Previously on Libel the Bible.
Isaac pulls the old "she's my sister" routine on Abimelech, who asks Isaac to leave his kingdom, but makes a covenant with him that neither faction will harm the other.
Rebekah and Jacob plot to steal Isaac's blessing upon Esau, which they carry off successfully.
Upon learning of his blessing, Esau vows to kill Jacob as soon as Isaac dies, forcing Jacob into self-imposed exile.
Jacob travels to his grandfather Abraham's homeland of Haran to find a wife, and while on the way has a dream, filling him with divine inspiration.
Jacob falls in love with Rachel and agrees to work for her brother Laban for 7 years, after which he will marry her.
After 7 years of honorable service, Jacob is deceived and is given Leah, Rachel's older sister, as a wife.
Jacob agrees to work another 7 years for Laban if he allows Jacob to marry Rachel immediately.
Jacob agrees and marries Rachel, who it turns out is infertile, but has 4 kids with Leah. Welcome back to another episode of Libel the Bible.
Do you mean welcome back to like the 4th take of this recording, or just in general?
Shh.
Oh, sorry.
All right, it's all right. We'll edit that out.
Sorry, didn't mean to go off script.
We're on episode 7 today. We're going to be covering Genesis 30 through 32. Scott, do you have any interesting anecdotes about Genesis?
Only that I came while downloading some MP3s legally. I came across Busta Rhymes. I said, let me download him, and found he has an album called Genesis.
Genesis.
So it was kind of
does it discuss
apropos?
Does it discuss sodomy and incest?
No, I haven't listened to a damn song from it. I just downloaded the first 5 because you get 5 a week.
I mean, there's got to be at least.
I like to download the whole album. It takes about a month and a half sometimes. 5 songs a week, depending on the size of the album, and then I listen to it. So
I mean, Busta Rhymes, you got to figure there's 3 or 4 songs involving sodomy. At the very least.
I guess. I didn't, yeah. I don't know.
All right. So, yeah, it's Genesis 30 through 32. I'm pretty excited to get into it because some interesting things happen, to say the least.
Okay, yeah.
You want to start off with Genesis 30?
Well, yeah. It'd be weird to start at 32 and work backwards.
Well, that was a clunky way of saying, Scott, why don't you start telling us about Genesis 30?
You did mention like last episode that like our readers weren't like smart enough to realize we were going in order, so might as well just do it any old order we want.
Didn't realize we had any readers. You think they're reading the transcripts? If you're reading our transcripts, I highly recommend actually listening to the show because we are way funnier, like if you hear our voices.
Yeah.
Don't read the transcript.
So, we back to Rachel. She's like, give me children or I should die.
Wait, Rachel is Jacob's wife.
Jacob's wife.
Jacob,
yes.
The grandson of Abraham.
Yes.
All right. So, she can't have kids. That's how we left off.
You know, I mean, it's a fine line. I mean, she can have kids or she just hasn't had kids.
She's infertile. I don't know. She hasn't.
I mean, again, OBGYN told her this, or it's like it just, misfire. Just hasn't happened.
I don't know if it's a misfire. How do you know? Like, are you...
That's what I'm saying. We don't know she's infertile. How do you know Jacob's not firing blanks?
Because he's banging Leah and she's like pumping out kid after kid after kid. Rachel's sister.
Wait a minute. What if she's banging more than Jacob and Jacob just thinks that they're his kids?
I mean, that's very possible too. But I would think God would have come down and like told Jacob. Jacob's in tight with God.
At this point, it's probably best that she is messing around and having kids with other people. Because since everybody's sleeping with their own family members, like for the gene pool sake, it's probably best that these kids come from other people.
It's unbelievable. This is like the original royal family. Like they do not want to marry outside of their own clan. So Rachel's upset. She's upset because she is not able to have kids, but her sister, who Jacob didn't even want to marry, she's pumping out kid after kid after kid. They've got 4 kids now.
Yeah, and Jacob's like, when listening to Rachel complain, he's like, listen, I'm not God. I don't control the fruit of the loom.
You think that's where they got fruit of the loom from?
Get fruit of the womb. That's absolutely a revelation from the Bible. Fruit of the loom came from fruit of the womb. It's definitely a play on this.
Okay.
It's going to go on the revelations list.
So, by the way, drinking game for all you listeners. Drink every time I say so. Because I've noticed...
Do you know, it's funny you said that because when I was editing the last episode, I actually cut out probably about a dozen or so so's.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Well, how will people know I'm transitioning?
What? What do you mean transitioning?
I'm transitioning. So in other words...
Oh, you mean in your verbiage, your speaking.
So I'm saying something really interesting.
I thought that was a new pronoun.
Well, what happens is I'm saying something really interesting. Right? It's like really captivating, and the audience is locked in on my every word. And then you come in and like interrupt me and say some stupid shit. So I have to now, I'm forced to engage and play along because, I mean, you bought the microphones. So now I'm sitting here engaging with you, counting like the seconds until I can get back to whatever I was saying, which is what the audience really wants to hear.
No doubt.
So, what's the transition for me to get back to that?
I'm drunk already. But I'm not drunk already.
That's right.
I'm still extending dry January until at least the first week of February.
I'm very not proud of Scott. I would have preferred that he was drinking today.
You know, so you're not proud of me because you want to use my weakness to your benefit.
I don't think it's a weakness. I think it's a strength.
All right.
I think when you're drunk, I don't know. I just find you more interesting.
And I accept your transitioning better.
So
Rachel says, go into my maid. My shit's not working. Rusty says I'm infertile, so bang my maid, and he does, and she has 2 sons.
And I'm quite opposed to the phrase maid because I know the Bible uses the word maid, but really it's a slave. We're talking about a slave because she's sex trafficking her.
I'm not... She is sex trafficking.
I mean, it's not like the maid has a choice. The Bible doesn't say she asked her maid, like, would you prefer to do this? Can you do this? Like, she just basically forces her maid to have sex with her husband. And you think it's like a maid, like the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger banged? Like, you think it's just like, you know, like, is she a good-looking maid at least?
Was that in a movie or was that in real life?
No, in real life. Arnold Schwarzenegger banged his maid, and she had a kid. Right. Yeah. And that kid looks just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like a Mexican Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So maybe the maid was completely a blank slate, if he looks just like his father. Like, she... You know what I mean?
The maid is a blank slate.
Just a blank slate.
What do you mean a blank slate? Like she has no face.
Nothing. It's completely featureless. Just
featureless.
Blank, just blank. That's how he was able to replicate a son that looks just like him.
Who are we talking about?
Schwarzenegger's son.
Oh. No, I've seen pictures of the maid. She is not a blank slate. She's more like one of those experimental Picasso paintings.
Wow. All right.
So, Rachel's quote-unquote maid is asked to sleep with Jacob.
Yeah, so she has a son named Dan. And I just think it's funny, in a world of Ishmaels and Abimelechs, that we've got a Dan.
We've got a Dan.
Here comes Dan.
Dan means that my husband had a kid with my slave.
That's in the book of baby names, right?
Yeah.
Back then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
So...
Therefore, she named him Dan.
All right, so now she's all happy because Jacob...
has 2 sons by her maid.
And that makes her super happy.
Yeah, but she says something weird. She says, with mighty wrestlings, I have wrestled with my sister and have prevailed. Mm-hmm. So she's wrestling with Leah, and she's won. Obviously, we're not talking about an actual physical wrestling, right? It's like kind of like a, It's like a spiritual wrestling of the soul. In other words, like, Jacob is in love with me, Rachel.
Jacob was never in love with Leah. Leah was sort of a con that was played on Jacob.
Con.
Are we going to have to cut out another Kirk reference in this episode?
I said it low so you wouldn't hear it.
So, I'm sorry. Where were we?
I don't know. So.
Anyway.
So she was wrestling with whatever, and she prevailed. Somehow, her maid getting knocked up twice and giving birth twice somehow puts her. She gets points on the board for that.
Look,
I don't know.
She feels inadequate because her older sister is having kids, and that is probably valued tremendously. Like, if you're able to have kids, you're like a breeding mare, basically, as a woman, because what other role is there for you back then other than being a breeding mare? So she's seeing her sister having all of this success. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming Jacob is having regular sex with Rachel, and she's not having any kids. Meanwhile, Jacob's got 4 with her sister. So she's like wrestling. It's like internal turmoil that she's going through. You know, am I not worthy of God? Why is God not giving me a child? But what's crazy is how she pats herself on the back for having her slave knocked up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what did she get points
she
for
didn't do
this?
anything.
I don't know. And you know what? Leia's response to this is awesome. She's like, oh yeah, we'll take my slave, and he knocks up her slave twice.
So this is it's a porno at this point. It's a porno. It's like the guy that shows up, you know, and like his like stepmom's like trapped in like the dryer, and he's like, oh, what should I do? Should I help her out? No, I'm gonna go in doggy style. This is like his wife is like, go sleep with my maid. He does. He has a child or maybe children. I forgot.
2.
Yeah. And then the other wife is like, oh yeah, well, I'll show you. Here, sleep with my maid.
Yeah, so now Leia's son, Reuben, goes
By
out
the
to
way,
the field. What?
Remember when Jacob agreed to work for Laban, and he was there for like 7 years? Now he's there for another 7 years, but like he had no problem with it, really. I could see why. This guy's living the life.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, and it gets even crazier. So now Leia's son, Reuben, I don't know how old which son this is, and he goes out and gets some mandrakes. Mandrakes.
Yeah, so mandrakes are like a root plant, and they were used for medicine back then, as well as like some spiritual shit. Like, I guess they used them in potions or like some alchemy.
They definitely a reagent again, because I'm pretty sure like in one of the Ultima video games, like you had to get mandrake root or something.
Ultima 4.
The Quest of the Avatar.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right. So he finds the mandrakes and he brings them to Leah. But Rachel wants some.
Yeah. And Leia's like, yo, first you took my husband, now you want my son's mandrakes?
Yeah. So Rachel's like, if you give me the mandrakes, you can have my husband tonight.
Yeah, okay, here we go, playing ping pong with this guy again. And yeah, he does, and guess what? She gets pregnant, has another son.
Yeah, he comes, well, think about Jacob. Jacob's like out in the field working. He comes home from work, and Rachel is like, you got to go over to Leah's house tonight because I got some mandrakes, and in exchange, you have to be with
go into her
Leah tonight. It's very, very weird.
And then she has a son, and then
yes, Leah has a son, but then God makes another appearance at this point. In Genesis 30, verse...
No, she has 2 sons and a daughter first, Leah.
Oh, okay. So
for mandrakes, she got two
from
more
what?
sons and a daughter.
From that one night?
No, I would think no. I would think like
It's
9
so
months.
weird because it seems like he's sleeping with her anyway, right?
I guess, yeah.
All right. So this whole time, Rachel is all bummed out. She can't have kids. She's pawning off her slave on her husband. She's promising her husband to her sister in exchange for mandrakes.
Some potatoes or something.
She still can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then this section closes out basically in verse 22.
Mm-hmm.
Then God remembered Rachel, and God heeded her and opened her womb.
Do you think he jumped up like, oh shit, I forgot about Rachel?
So that's the thing. Like, then God remembered Rachel.
Don't do it. We agreed. He's not all-knowing and all-powerful. Nobody said that yet.
And by the way, here's what I want you to start thinking about. Apparently,
Control my thoughts
he's
too.
not the only God. Because
What?
So nowhere yet has anyone said the God or just God. It's always your God or the God of
Yes. And they mentioned that again,
Abraham or the God of this person or the God of that or the God of Bethel or the God, you know what I mean? So it seems like there is no monotheism yet. It's almost like God, there's many gods, sort of like guardian angels. This guardian angel is my guardian angel. That guardian angel is your, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there is no one like main God.
Okay, I'll accept that.
So Jacob's having a shit ton of kids and he's still at Laban's. He's there for over a decade now.
Well, when you said God remembered Rachel, you forgot to add that he opened her womb and they had a son together.
No, I literally read that.
Did you?
Yeah, then God remembered Rachel and God heeded her and opened her womb. Yeah, I didn't mention that,
okay.
Yes, but I didn't mention, you're right, that Jacob and her wind up having a child.
Now, when I play this back, or when you play this back, are you going to point out that you didn't say it because I cut you off like in mid-statement?
Well, I'm going to edit out my mea culpa. Yes, absolutely.
All right. So we have Joseph.
We have Joseph? You and I? Was your womb opened up?
And you know, not to get off script here, but what is the percentage of sons born to daughters? Like it seems like there's a lot of sons born and very few daughters.
Well, maybe this is God's part of the covenant when he promised Abraham to spread his seed across like the dust of the desert. You know, it's beneficial to have sons because the sons can take on concubines and wives and maids and slaves and servants and
but it doesn't seem
sisters.
to be any daughters being born. Or do you think this is a society that highly respects the male and the daughters maybe, you know where I'm going with this. Like,
China. You're going to China.
I wasn't doing that.
Are they being buried? Is that what's happening?
I don't know. Let's move on, man. Let's not even. Ugh.
I mean, now that you mention it, the fact that Rachel didn't have kids all these years, but then had a son, maybe she did have kids. Maybe she had a bunch of daughters.
Oh, wow. Who don't get inheritance? They don't get. Yeah.
And she just smothered them. They're dumpster babies.
You know what?
She had dumpster babies.
Let's not start that rumor.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah. I'm sorry I brought it up. This is gruesome. Yeah. So now we go to. Let's move on to Genesis 30. What is it? Chapter 25, verse 20. Like, how's that work?
Well, Genesis is the chapter, and then the verse is the number.
No. Genesis is the book, isn't it?
I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry. Exactly correct. Genesis is the book, 30 is the chapter, and the verse is like the little number.
Just wanted the terminology. Okay. So Jacob prospers at Laban's expense.
Jacob prospers at Laban's expense. Was it really at Laban's expense?
Was it really at Laban's expense?
Tell the story. What happens?
Jacob wants to leave Laban with his wives and children.
Yeah, I mean, it seems reasonable.
Yeah, he's been there long enough.
He's been there for a long time. He's fulfilled everything he's had to.
Absolutely.
Him and Laban, like, made agreements. And by the way, Laban has constantly, like, altered those agreements. Go ahead. I know you want to do it.
I'm not doing it.
I know you want to do it.
I'm not doing it.
Okay, because you gave me that look like your eyes, like, lit up like Darth Vader. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Laban tells him, pray I don't alter the agreement again. So he goes, listen, Jacob, I'm blessed because of you. Name your wage. Which I was confused by. Like, does he want to pay him for the duties already performed? The servitude already performed? Or is he saying you got to stay on, I'll just pay you to stay on? Like, what does he mean by name your wage?
So he tells Jacob, I don't really want to let you go because basically, like, my God has told me that your God has given me prosperity. Like, I've gained prosperity through you. And when he says name your wage, I think he's saying, what's it going to take to make you stay? Like, I don't want you to leave.
Okay, fair enough. But Jacob kind of blows that off.
Yeah, he doesn't want to stay.
He's like, listen, I'm going to take the speckled spotted sheep and the goats and the black lambs. So if anybody catches me with any non-speckled white whatever, you know they're stolen. And Laban agrees to this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what's he do? Because I'm not really sure what he does here. This doesn't make any sense to me.
All right. So I had to read this numerous times because
good.
it's
Not
so
just me.
convoluted. So basically, Jacob says, I'm going to take these animals, like the ones that are spotted, the ones that are black, the ones that are striped.
Yeah.
If you see me with any, like, solid colored animal outside of, like, a black one, you know I'm stealing from you.
Yeah.
Laban's like, all right, cool. So I'll give you those particular animals. So then Laban, he takes those particular animals.
All right, I did read that right. Okay.
And he, like, ships them off 3 days away.
With his sons.
With his sons somewhere else. So that the only animals that are left are ones that Jacob cannot have himself.
Right. Once again, Laban's not a cool guy.
He's a total asshole.
Yeah.
But what Jacob does is crazy.
I had to read this a couple times myself to figure out, like, what is this magic that he's doing.
Right. It's exactly what it is. It's magic because I don't think this is how animals are bred. You know, I don't think selective breeding works like this. So he takes, like, I don't remember the exact terms.
He takes rods.
Right. He
like
takes
like tree branches.
and he
right?
like basically like stripes them up, right? Like he makes them look like what he wants the animals to look like. So that when they're breeding together, they look at these twigs or sticks so that they produce offspring. It's like
I didn't take it
like
that way.
breeding through osmosis.
I didn't take it that way because they distinctly say they put the different rods in the trough that they water from, where they drink from.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was more like a food coloring he was putting in there, and they drank from that water, and then when they bred, they took on the properties of whatever was in that.
Yeah. So I read this many, many times, and I'm fairly certain he is using witchcraft. The animal sight, like they take this in, and then they will produce offspring that are striped.
I didn't feel that way because they said he put it in the water.
Well, either way, did it work?
It worked.
It worked. So whether or not it's some physical chemical reaction with the water, or whether it's just through osmosis, them looking at these twigs and whatever else.
So I'm going to say, listen, based on the science I'm reading here, it worked. Now, you want to come out and say you did your research and this isn't how it works, that's fine, but it worked. So,
well, here's the thing, Scott. Unlike you, I'm a man of faith. And whereas you rely on science, I rely on the grace of God. And I'm going to go ahead and say that the reason that these animals produced the offspring that they produced was because God saw Jacob's struggle and acted upon it.
Jacob's struggle, huh? Let's look at Jacob's struggle, please.
So he gets the animals.
Yeah, so yeah, they reproduce.
He gets the animals that he wants.
Yeah, but the ones that are strong reproduce. The ones that are feeble don't reproduce. So what's he do? He leaves the feeble ones for Laban, which I ain't mad at him about because Laban's
he's doing what he needs to do.
You know,
so they're both,
and Jacob has proven he does nothing nefarious ever.
They're both trying to like. You slipped that in on me, right? Like you tried to slip that by me. Jacob's a scumbag, and he deserves everything that's coming to him.
Well, he's doing well so far. So it says Jacob grew rich. So apparently he stuck around for a while because these things had to get born, and he had to sell them, and he had to cattle drive them, and whatever. Like,
here's my confusion at this point. When he left to go to Haran, to Laban's house to find a wife, when he left his dad Isaac was dying, right? He was like on his deathbed.
Yeah.
Wasn't he getting the birthright from Isaac? Like, wasn't he supposed to inherit everything from Isaac? He's been here over 14 years now. Is Isaac still alive? I don't understand. Did he not get his birthright? Why does he need, why can't he just leave and claim his birthright back like in his homeland?
Well, he had to run. Remember, he had to run because Esau was
because of his brother, right?
So maybe when he goes back, he'll get it.
So why isn't he going back? Is he ever going to go back?
I don't, maybe he doesn't want to leave this life.
He wants to go back right now, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, he wants to go. He wants to leave,
and he's going to.
So why does he need to stick around and fuck around with these sheep and these goats? Go back home. You've got a whole birthright waiting for you.
Yeah, why did he stick around?
And even if he didn't have the full birthright, he comes from a wealthy family. Abraham was wealthy. Isaac was wealthy.
Wait. No. When what's his name? Laban said, "Name your wage to stay." He says, "Okay, I'm going to take these animals." So when he said take him, he didn't mean take him and leave. He meant he was going to stick around for a while and work with these animals.
Oh, is that what's going on?
I guess so. No, this is not. This, as you're presenting this to me, that's what I'm thinking now. It's because it said Jacob grew rich, so he stuck around for a while. You don't get rich overnight,
right? No, because he had to breed like all of these animals. So this took place over the course of a few mating seasons at least.
So I think this was an agreed upon thing, and like I don't think he's captive. He's not a captive at this point.
So he's still there. So he was there for 7 years, married to Leah before he can get Rachel. Then to get Rachel, he had to stay another 7 years. So that's 14 years right there. Now, this is another at least like 2, 3, 4 years, right, of mating these animals. So he's been here now almost 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
Just about 20 years.
Yeah, a score.
So that gets us to Genesis 31. And Genesis 31 starts off with a section titled, Jacob Flees with Family and Flocks.
Because Laban's a master manipulator. He had to go.
So Jacob finds out Laban's sons are not happy with him.
No.
They're jealous.
They're jealous, and they feel like he took everything from their father.
Right. Even though they tried to screw him over, right? By like keeping...
And Laban points out that I was prosperous because of you. So his sons are just wrong.
This whole family Abraham's side of the family, Laban's side of the family.
I gotta tell you, dude, Jacob, minus the influence of his mother, has been pretty damn honorable.
Well, his mother didn't influence him to take his brother's birthright.
No.
He did that all on his own.
Yeah, that he did.
But yes, point taken. But that also might be because of the vision that he had. Remember, like the whole ladder, like the angels descending. He had that dream where the angels were descending and ascending to and from heaven
So
on
he
the
got
ladder.
scared straight.
Not so much scared straight, but inspired. You know?
Hey, people can change, man. We have to allow them to change.
It was divine inspiration.
Yeah.
So, okay. So he finds out Laban's sons are not happy with him. So what's he do?
Oh, he goes to sleep, and God comes to him and says, "Yo, Jacob, time to bounce."
Yeah. God needed to tell him this.
Yeah, read the room, buddy. Yeah, well, you know what? His mother had to tell him to leave us out, too. Like, he wasn't really picking up on that either.
Yeah.
So, all right. He's got a lot of people looking out for him.
Right. So he calls, like, a secret meeting, right, out in the field. He like, calls his two wives, Leah and Rachel. He's like, yo, meet me. I don't know why he had to meet them out in the field. Like, why not, like, do it at night? You know, like, he's obviously banging both of them. Just, like, let's hash things out, like, in the comfort of our tents at night. No one's around to hear.
Well, it
seems more suspicious to call them out into the field, like, in broad daylight.
Yeah, I don't get the impression that they're ever in the tents together. Like, there's no menage a trois things going on.
Oh, I don't think so.
I totally think it's like almost like, you know, I don't know, strange. So if they were all in a tent at night, that actually might have been stranger than meeting in a field.
Well, the menage
during
a
the day.
trois are probably left for, like, the concubines and the slaves. I think the wives, that's just like, you know, that's just regular.
Well, listen, Saturday nights for the
missionary.
wives, Friday nights were always for the girlfriends.
Right. You think they had the cope?
They had to cope with something.
I mean, he's sort of in construction.
Not with those hands.
All right. So Jacob calls out his wives, and they meet him in the desert. And he starts complaining about the way their dad is treating him.
Rightfully so.
And he tells them, like, yo, man, we got to get out of here.
But then he mentions, God told me, like he gave me all this livestock. He gave me all this stuff, all that. Like, and I'm not buying that, by the way.
What do you mean?
He tells, like, Leah and Rachel, oh, so God told me last night, like, to take the livestock and jet. It's time to go. God gave me all this stuff.
Oh, right.
I'm not buying it. But they bought it.
Well, wait a second. I mean, it is his livestock. He agreed, like, they made an agreement. It is his livestock, right? Or is he talking about taking, like, more on top of that?
I don't know. It doesn't really come up again, so
like, he made an agreement. Laban was like, name your price. He was like, I'll take, like, the striped goats. And he's got his striped goats.
But then he selectively bred them and gave them the weak ones. But, that was payback for the other.
I mean, was there a rule against breeding, selectively breeding?
It is when you purposely take the feeble ones. But he's got 20 years of history of doing the right thing by Laban,
So he tells them all these things, and whether or not they believe God spoke to him about it, I mean, they're both pretty much like, all right, cool.
Yeah, they're basically like, yo, there's nothing here for us because we're not sons. So they say, yeah, all right, let's do whatever God told you to do.
Yeah.
So they buy it, and maybe they don't buy it, but it's all maybe it's just they all secretly wink at each other. And
remember,
the story was
it's not God; it's Isaac's God or Abraham's God. It's probably not even their God. You know what I mean?
I guess.
Remember, there is no capital G1 monotheistic God yet. I mean, I guess there is, but people don't believe. They don't believe in him.
Right. So they set off a Catan.
So stupid, by the way. Him. God.
Capital
Him. Like, first of all, like, he would need a gender. And second of all, the fact that a creator would be a him is fucking ridiculous.
They were pronoun limited back then.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they weren't invented yet, a lot of them.
Okay. It wasn't in their Twitter handle yet.
No, of course not.
Okay.
No. Oh, before they set out for Catan, Rachel...
Catan.
Did I say Catan again? I did. Rachel stole some of Laban's household goods.
Well, she didn't steal some. She specifically stole the household gods.
I think that was a misspelling.
How so?
Because I kept saying, because they said household gods, where are the gods? She took the gods. And I was like, what the hell is a god? What are the gods?
Well, what do you think?
But later on, they say goods. So I actually think it's a typo, I think.
So you think it was goods?
Yeah, it was goods. Like shit from Marshalls. You know? Crap nobody wants anyway.
She stole the shower curtain. Yo, you stole my household goods.
Yo, they had a house party. Maybe house and shit.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure she took like some idols. You know?
Yeah. And I did not.
So Laban,
now it makes a little more sense.
Laban probably had like, you know, like a little like prayer temple set up in his house.
Little figures, like action
with like
figures.
little idols that he would pray to, and she probably took those.
Like Jobu.
Do you think she took those out of spite for him, or you think like these are her gods too, and she took them to have?
Yeah, because Jacob's telling the story about God came to me and told us to do that, and they're like, yeah, let's do what your God says, but I'm going to keep my God in my back pocket. I'm taking my God with me.
Absolutely.
All right. I still think it was a misprint.
So now he is going to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
But again, is Isaac alive? Because it's been almost 20 years.
There's no way he's alive.
I mean, so...
Wait. Did you read ahead? Do you know if he's alive or not?
Well, I did have to read ahead, so at the end of the episode...
No, I'm granting that.
I can get into... I don't remember. I don't remember Isaac.
All right.
So in the next section, Laban overtakes Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacob is on his way to Canaan with the flock, his family, his servants. It's got to be like it's a whole caravan going on, right? It's a lot of people. I would think like hundreds of people, hundreds of animals, right? Like all their belongings, all their possessions.
And it is a lot of animals, as we'll see coming up.
So Laban is all angry because he finds out that that Jacob left.
Yeah, he found out on the third day after he left. Like, he didn't notice.
I mean,
this guy he's been sucking off of all these years, his daughters, and hundreds of animals are gone.
Well, he was like, maybe they went down to the Oasis. I know they like to, they like to weekend at the Oasis.
They just went to get the laundry done.
They went out for a pack of cigarettes and a carton of milk.
Yeah.
So he hops on his camels or whatever they have back then, and they take off.
Yeah, nothing's going to break his stride.
Yeah. So it takes him about 3 days, and he's about to catch up.
7 days.
It was 7 days?
7 days.
Okay. See, he's about to catch up to Jacob, and God appears to Laban.
Yeah.
Not Laban's God, Jacob's God.
Yeah, I guess. Yes.
Now, I got to tell you one thing, by the way. If I believe in Jobu as God.
Oh, you heard me say that before.
And so Jacob's God appears to me. I'll be like, fuck you, Jobu. I'm all about this new God. You know what I mean? Like, I'm giving up Jobu immediately because this God is actually fucking talking to me now.
Yeah, he might be talking, but he can't hit a curveball.
But these idiots in the Bible, if God was talking to me, I can't imagine ever defying God. You know, I defy God because I think it's ridiculous and I don't believe it and God has never spoken to me. But if God ever fucking spoke to me, I'd be like...
There's your evidence. And
What is God?
He says, say not a word to Jacob, good or bad.
Yeah.
So I guess don't speak to Jacob.
Well, I think it's more like don't fuck with him. I don't even want you to like talk to him.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, don't say shit to
Yeah.
him. But that doesn't happen because he catches up to him.
Yeah, well, because Laban is all about Joe Boo for some reason. So he catches up to him.
And he asks him, why did you deceive us? I would have given you a going away party. And why'd you steal my home goods?
Yeah. Like he has this whole conversation and he's like, yo, you're lucky your God showed up because I was going to fuck you up, but your God doesn't want me to do that. So I'm just having this confrontation with you right now to let you know I know what you did. You left with my children, and one of you fuckers has stolen my home goods.
Exactly.
Where's my plunger?
And he says, search everybody.
So he's obviously looking for his idols. He's looking for Joe Boo. He needs to put it in the locker so he can hit that curveball.
Yeah.
All right. So he looks all over camp. All over camp. Can't find it.
I know where they are.
Finally, he shows up to Rachel's tent. And Rachel is the one that took it.
Yeah, Rachel grabs the goods.
By the way, Jacob doesn't know this.
No.
And Jacob was all like, yo, go look through my camp.
Yeah.
And if you find whatever idols, Jacob was like, we'll kill this person like right there. Like, yeah. Like, we'll take care of him.
That would have been a crazy twist to the story. So Rachel gathers up the mixer and the punch bowl, and she puts it in the saddle on the camel, and then she sits on top of the camel.
Yeah.
So now when Laban comes over, I guess to search the camel or say anything to it, she's like, sorry, I can't get up.
Not even. It seemed like she was like in her tent just on the saddle, and the saddle was hiding these things. He didn't even approach the saddle. He was just like looking around. He might have left the tent.
Oh, the saddle wasn't on the camel and she was on top of the camel?
I don't think so. I think because why would it was like nighttime maybe? I don't know. I got the impression that, I don't know. Either way, she's sitting on a saddle.
Yeah.
And it's underneath the saddle. So I would think it would make sense that it wasn't on the camel, that the saddle was more like on the ground and the idols were like tucked in underneath the saddle.
Oh, maybe it was a one hump camel, but she made a second hump with the goods.
Because
he thought it was a two hump camel.
Because what she's about to say makes more sense if she's not up on a camel, but she's more on the ground.
So what does she say?
So he's like looking around. He's not even interested in her, and she volunteers out of the blue. She's like, "Forgive me if I don't get up, but like I'm in a womanly way right now." Like she's on her period.
See, I didn't know, was she pregnant? Was she on her period? Or she was just in a bitchy mood?
Well, she's not anything. She doesn't want to get up, so she tells him she's having her period.
Okay, that's what she meant by that. Okay.
Hold on. Let's not skip over this, because we're living in a time where brothers are marrying sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Constant sodomy is transpiring. Servant slaves are given to husbands to bear children. There's a lot of craziness going on. You would think a man back then wouldn't be so turned off by like a little period blood. What's a little period blood? You know what I mean? Especially when you're looking for your gods. Like I would have been like, you know what? I want to look under the saddle.
No, I don't think she was saying that to save him from it, because I think he's nasty. He would have done anything with anyone. I think she would just she was not comfortable getting up, so it was an excuse.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, you wouldn't do this because I'm bloody. No.
So he took pity on her and said, "Okay, you could just keep sitting. I won't check under the saddle for my God."
I mean, can a blender sit underneath the saddle without being seen? I don't know.
So, anyway, these people are fucking idiots. And so he leaves her tent without finding his God.
Yeah. And then Jacob confronts Laban.
Finally, Jacob fucking tells him everything that needs to be said.
He lays into him hard. 20 years of pent-up shit.
I mean, really, man, I've done everything you've asked me. First of all, you like conned me into marrying like a daughter I didn't even want, but I was like, fuck it. I've done everything for you. I've even like made you prosper. Like you are what you are today because of me. Yeah, you owe me everything. Yeah. And all I want is to go back home.
Yeah. He took the hits when things went bad. He didn't even pass it on to Laban. He took the loss. Yeah.
So they make a covenant.
Basically, he thought he was going to make him leave with nothing, and had his God not intervened with Laban probably would have tried to take all the shit back.
Yeah, well, Jacob tells him, right? Because Laban was like, why'd you leave without telling me? Yeah. And Jacob was like in the initial confrontation. Yeah. And Jacob was like, because I didn't think you would ever let me go.
Yeah, fair enough.
And like there's evidence to suggest that. Yeah. So Jacob lays into him. He tells him everything he needs to tell him. So Laban and Jacob make a covenant. There's always these fucking dumb covenants. I mean,
so they tell the this is where it gets weird. They tell the servants to go collect a bunch of stones and pile them up in a heap. Get a heap of stones, and the heap of stones is going to bear witness to their covenant.
Yeah, not the people.
Right. These fucking rocks.
Stones. Well, the people are servants and women, so rocks are much, much more important.
Yes, you're probably right. Yeah, so they put up a pillar and they have a heap of stones, and this is going to bear witness. And what do they agree on?
They agree not to fuck with each other, and that neither one will cross like the marking. So like once Jacob is on one side of the pillar, he's going to stay on his side, and Laban will stay on his side. They will never cross.
Is this the first mention of a border being drawn? Like a territorial?
I mean, yes. There were other borders implied. I'm assuming the Garden of Eden had like a border.
No, that first of all, that was Earth 1.0.
Oh,
we're on
like
true. 2.0 now.
Okay.
Like that's been wiped clean.
All right. 3.0 actually.
Yeah.
Noah's Earth was 2.0.
No, but Noah's Earth was still from the Garden of Eden. God didn't wipe everything out after the Garden of Eden. He sent.
Was there a world?
Yeah. No. This is 2.0.
Okay.
Or was that episode 0? All right, so they agree that they're not going to cross the markers, and then they have a big party, and they tarried throughout the night.
Yeah.
Do you know what that word means?
I think it's like merriment. Like they did like the whole Hobbit thing. Like they drank out of big mugs and like sang party songs, and
Ewoks dance with droids,
and then just like passed out like in the field, like wherever they were.
Well, so I want you to make a covenant with me. Mm-hmm. If you're correct about the meaning of that word, I want you to edit it out. Can you do that for me?
I mean, we have a precedent for that already, so sure.
Yeah. So with that, the next morning, Laban heads home.
Okay. And that gets us to the next chapter, Genesis 32. Jacob sends presents to appease Esau. Was there something else?
Yeah. First,
I missed something.
Yeah, he goes towards, I guess he's heading on his way, and he meets some angels again.
Okay, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, because that's all he says. He met some angels. Doesn't describe where they came from, what they're doing, what happened,
right.
Nothing.
Well,
and it was just glossed over.
Maybe it's just like a sign that he's on the right path. The angels are there; they're protecting him.
Okay.
Or more likely, he got into some of that, like some of those like mushrooms.
Shit. Oh, here comes that ladder again.
So that gets us to Genesis 32. Jacob sends presents to appease Esau because he's on his way back home
Yeah.
And he's got to like smooth things over with his brother, who he has royally fucked over more than once.
Still blaming his mother for that.
So Jacob sends messengers to talk to. How do you pronounce this guy's name? Is it Esau? Is it Esau? How would you say it?
I would just say, Rusty's boy. Because, you're loving you some Esau.
So he sends messengers to Esau, and they have gifts.
They have gifts, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the messenger comes back with some news and goes, hey, good news, your brother's coming to meet you. He's so happy he's bringing 400 men with him. Zoinks.
Right. So Jacob is like, oh, shit.
I guess he's not over it.
He's like, all right, I guess like the goats and the trinkets that I sent aren't really making up for this whole like stealing your birthright and our dying father's like blessing. Fuck. So he decides he's gonna split up his caravan in two to minimize the damage that can be done. He's like,
good move.
Yeah, he's like, if Esau shows up and he confronts one of these like groups, they'll get wiped out, but at least we'll have we have a better chance of survival.
Yeah. And then he kind of complains to God, right? And he's like, God, you said everything would be cool. I'd have offspring like the sand of the sea and all that happy crappy. And yeah, so he's kind of making it like a plea to God, like what the hell? But
right.
it kind of goes unanswered, right? He doesn't mention that God responds.
No. Wait, this is the craziest part of the Bible I've read so far, all right? This is crazy. All right.
This is crazy.
So he waits until nighttime, and he sends his family, like he escorts his family, like his wives and their kids, to like this river, and he has them cross the river.
Yeah.
Right? Sort of like to get away. Now he stays on his side of the river.
Yeah, he stays by himself.
Okay. Then,
what do you think his motivation was here, though? Like, just he needs some time to get alone to like think of like tactics.
I'm going to tell you what his motivation is. Okay. There's some Brokeback Mountain shit that goes on now, because all night he spends wrestling with some man.
Yeah.
That shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you? They spend all night wrestling. Scott, let's do improv and not be no. Let's be yes. What's the part of the Bible? He's literally by himself at night, and then it describes
he's wrestling with some
out of
dude.
nowhere, out of nowhere.
Very.
He's
random.
wrestling all night long. What do you think that means?
If I just had to go off what you're saying, yeah, okay, we're talking some stuff was going on, but there's more to the story here.
Butt stuff.
There's more to the story here. He spends the night wrestling with some dude, and the dude wants to. Dawn is breaking, and the guy's like, "All right, let me go," and Jacob's like, "No." So the guy hits him in the hip socket, breaks something. Oh, wait. You think he was having... Do you think it was like a NAMBLA situation? And he wasn't letting the victim go?
I think the guy's butt was tired. I think he was like, it's enough. Excuse me.
Take a sip of that water. I don't know, because he goes, let me go, and Jacob says, no, bless me first. And he goes, fine, your name is Israel now.
He's wrestling with God. It's God.
Right, so why are you making it out like there's some sort of sexual aspect to this?
Because it's fucking funny, man. I'm trying to be funny. Oh. I thought like I didn't know we were having like a serious podcast where we were like interpreting the Bible.
Dude.
It's like he's wrestling with some man all of a sudden out of nowhere.
I just thought this was more biblical, like funny talk about like.
Nah, man, this is just me like riffing on like he sends his family across the river. Now he's all alone, like by himself, you know? And the next line is literally, and he spent all night wrestling with like some guy. I mean, that's Brokeback Mountain.
In a valley.
Wherever.
Okay, so you're not saying that actually happened. All right, but
no,
right. Okay.
I'm not saying that actually happened.
So he's wrestling with God. Like, is it a physical wrestling? Like, is it actually physically wrestling? Because you remember Rachel had the term wrestling earlier when it came to
yes, that
Leah.
was metaphorical. This seems to be physical because his hip gets all
he
fucked
breaks his
up.
hip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. And then he says, "Now your name is Israel." Why is that a blessing?
Israel means I forgot. I looked it up. It's something like he who has seen the face of God or something like that. That's what Israel means.
Because he does mention that he has seen the face of God. He asks the man his name, and he goes, "Why do you want to know my name?" Which is a weird question. Why would? Because I've been wrestling with you all night, and since we're going our separate ways, all chill. Like, hey, buddy? What's your name?
So Jacob gets rebranded Israel.
Rebranded
because he has seen the face of God. And that's pretty much where this chapter ends.
Well, he limps away.
Oh, yes.
And to this day, the Israelites don't eat the thigh muscle.
Right.
What is that a thing?
I don't know. I don't know like I know like certain things that are considered not kosher. I don't know like all of the things that are considered not kosher. And I don't know why.
And are they talking about human thigh muscles they don't eat?
I guess any thigh muscles.
I think
if
research needs to be done on that.
If you're in a plane crash in the Andes and you have to resort to cannibalism, the only thing you're not going to be able to eat is the thigh muscle.
That's when I'm wishing I had long legs. So
But it seems like
it
seems like the thing you would eat is the thigh muscle because that's the shit that God fucked up on Israel, right? It's not like he saved the thigh muscle.
Yeah, it's like if God touched your hip, like I'm not washing that shit for a month. Well, in that case, probably a year because they probably didn't wash.
So this is where this particular section leaves us off, and it's a great cliffhanger.
It is. You know, at first I was like, why are we leaving off here? Because I skipped to the next page. I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah.
In our
He limps off.
In our next episode...
Oh, wait. First of all, we completely missed a part. I'm sorry. We got to rewind. Because after he got the message that 400 men were coming towards him, he took, like, servants and, like, 100 animals and sent them forward to meet with Esau. When he asked, whose stuff is this? It's your brother Jacob's. Yes. And then there was another wave. They called them droves. They came in droves.
Yes.
And it was almost like showing him, like, this is all going to be yours. Almost like really trying to soften Esau up.
So, right. You're absolutely right. So we forgot that part where he sends ahead all those things, and he tells the messenger of that particular, like, caravan, and tell Esau, I'm coming behind this caravan.
And there's more where this came from.
So, yes. So, before, like...
Just a little taste.
Before he stealthily, like, sends his wives away and his kids away, yes, he sends a messenger to Esau telling him, here's everything you can have, and by the way, I'm coming up behind this. Then he has his night of wrestling with God.
Right.
God, like, ruins his hip, and we're going to leave off today. But the next episode, if you want to read along, we're going to be doing Genesis 33 to 36. And
write it down.
The name of the next, like, chapter or the heading that begins it is something like, just as a little teaser, Jacob meets Esau. Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So, in the next episode...
You must be happy.
After over 20 years on the run, there will finally be a confrontation.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. I just want to, like... I want to put this a little more dramatic. So, it ends with basically armies of servants and flocks heading towards an army of 400 men. Esau bringing up the rear on one side... Jacob limping on the other side.
Forward, he cried.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
From the rear.
All right, guys. And the front ranks died.
God's rear.
Peace.
Wrestling.